Hello, everyone. I can see you joining. Welcome to this good session on 2 o'clock on a sunny Thursday afternoon. We're just going to wait for everyone to join. If anybody's joined any of my webinars before, you're going to know that I refer to a football stadium where you're going through the turnstiles. That's how this software works. So we have to wait for everyone to come through the turnstile with their ticket. But while we are waiting, could I just get anybody who is already in just to pop into the Q&A that you can hear me, and that I'm coming through loud and clear and all of that, and that you can see my screen. That would be the other thing. And there might be a prize to the person. Oh, look, well done, Joe. I was going to say it was going to be a prize, but you beat me to it. Well done. Thank you. Good. In that case, then I might ask Laura to turn her camera on as well. Oh, thanks, Paul, Michael. Oh, you're all saying it now. Thank you. And hello to everybody. Chat is disabled, Lisa, well spotted. We only use Q&A in this one. So please pop any questions that you have throughout this session today into the Q&A box. And just for all of those on, I still say this, and we're no longer in the days of where everyone was working at home, but if for any unknown reason we get cut off, the line goes dead, it ends suddenly, we will restart the webinar and it will just been some technical hitch with our broadband. So we will get started again, so please stay with us. We are also recording this session, so we will get a copy of it sent out to all of those who have registered to attend. So you'll see that in your inbox later on this afternoon. But for now, I think I'll get on and get going. And those that are late will just join us. So welcome, Laura. I'll introduce you in a second, but let me just flick to the next slide and introduce us both. So me, the chatty one, my name's Helen. I'm sure as very familiar names I've already seen in the list. So some of you know me, but I am one of the directors here at Featually by Sage. As part of the original team that took Featually out to market. So we have worked with you guys really close quarters in this space over the past 9 years. And I am absolutely delighted to be joined by one of those that we've worked most closely with is Laura. So Laura, can you just introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everybody. I'm the owner of Marvin Bookkeeping, and I'm a chartered management accountant by trade, but obviously work in the bookkeeping space.
Okay, brilliant. Your sound is a little bit ropey then. I'm sure it will improve. See, technical problems 2 minutes in, brilliant. But I think that was just an internet blip. I'm sure we'll be fine. If we need to do anything, we will do. We've got quite a packed session today. It is the world's most relaxed session. We want you to get real value out of this. It's going to be Laura and I really chatting through her experiences of trying to build out more value-based services with her clients. Of course, that's underpinned with technology, and we will be talking about technology, but really it's the nuts and bolts of the journey that you've been through that we're going to focus on. So whilst there is this agenda, we are keeping it as loose as possible so that we can get the most out of this. And back to the questions, please ask Laura anything. She is up for answering any questions that are related to the world that we're talking about today. But please feel free to type your questions in. And she is an open book and will share the good, the bad, and the ugly of all of her experiences. Quick headline of us, though, Featually, for those of you that don't know, as I said, inferred at the beginning, we've been around for 9 or so years. We very much launched to support small businesses, actually, to understand their businesses better. That was our core reason for going to market. We felt very disjointed that there was all this information, this BI information, forecasting information for big businesses, and small businesses couldn't level up because 10 years ago, whilst there was cloud bookkeeping, there wasn't forecasting easily available. It became quite a big task for any small business to access it. And we knew how critical it was. We saw the failure rates. We know the failure rates of small businesses, and so much of it sits around cash flow. So we set around to solve that with a tool that connects to those cloud bookkeeping softwares and utilizes that data to give small businesses that insight. And really, over the past 9 years, we've evolved to supporting our accountant and bookkeepers to deliver those insights, because they are best placed to support the SMEs with the results that they can get from the software that we provide. So we are an advisory platform for accountants and bookkeepers, and it's really important that we're not just for accountants. Bookkeepers is a really core part of our client base. I've actually just come back from Australia, where the bookkeeping over there really are running ahead with this because they're so close to their small businesses. So yeah, the platform is there designed to support you guys to instantly add insights, and then of course build those longer term advisory relationships with your customers. So enough about me, let's go over to you, Laura. That's why everyone's turned up today. So tell us more about More Than Bookkeeping and more about your experience today.
So I've been in the finance industry about 15 years now. I've worked with a lot of small businesses that weren't receiving the support we needed from their accountant. As many people know, accountants turn up once a year, don't really hold their hands throughout the year. what I want to do with More Than Bookkeeping is really help support small businesses and, you know, medium and larger businesses as well, to make sure that they have the support and guidance they need to be as successful and profitable as possible. And so we're not turning around as like failing after 2, 3, 4 years because of cash flow issues or issues that could have really been solved sooner. And so what I've decided to do, because I have a massive passion for helping people and teaching people, I used to tutor accountants and bookkeepers with their AAT and CMA exams. I thought actually, instead of setting up a traditional bookkeeping firm and accounting firm, just like everyone else is, why not actually help even more small business owners by helping the bookkeepers and accountants out there already to provide a better service to those small business owners. So instead of like providing the bookkeeping and accounting services to the end user of a small business owner, I support the bookkeeping and accountant, teaching them, supporting them, mentoring them. I've got courses, things like that I provide to people of how to provide cash flow forecasting, budgets, management reports, anything that client needs, even as far as strategic meetings, of how to get from where they currently are to where they want to be to achieve their personal and business goals.
And well done you. And how many accounting firms do you work with now in that, or have you worked with over the time?
I have worked with over 400 so far, at all different ways. So some of them maybe do my full course, others is like one-to-one mentoring sessions, and then some of them is like doing a done for you service. So
that's amazing. And I guess you must see some repeating patterns. So, you know, what's the challenge that you see repeatedly again and again coming in from?
The biggest challenge is a lot of business owners not realizing that the money in the bank actually needs to be used for things that they've got in forecast in the future. So things like your VAT bill and your corporation tax, personal tax, and things like that. They go, oh, I want to take out £3,000 per month for their personal use. But actually don't think about, actually, of that £3,000, I want to pay tax on that. So actually we need a bit more. And actually things happen that we might not have expected. And we need to like build a bit of a rainy day fund. So that's just for the personal funds, never mind the business funds.
And from the accountants that you're working, or the bookkeeping firms that you're working with, what's the common trends you see within their challenges of delivering that type of advice and delivering that kind of
Very much so, a lack of time. Nobody has got time to be providing the service that we do currently. And obviously having to provide advisory services such as management reporting and cash flow forecast, a lot of people go, I don't have the time to breathe. Never mind me spending hours to learn softwares and be able to actually produce what they want to produce, which is why obviously I love Futurely so much.
Yeah, thanks very much. But I mean, it's one we hear a lot as well. And ultimately, whilst I'd love to be able to give everyone, including myself with my to-do list, an extra 8 hours a day, it's not possible. We've all only got 24 hours a day. So what is the answer? Because you've got this real challenge of these small businesses who really need support and help and guidance because they are getting it wrong. They're missing those obvious things like tax that you're taking out X amount, actually you need Y. You know, how do you balance that need from the small business with the bookkeepers who are already strung out and working far more hours than is humanly feasible?
For me, it's very much relying on software that can become effectively another employee or free. I use Futurely as it is effectively like having a whole team of employees within my team, because how it's working in the system, it's very much a plug and play system. You link it into your accounting software and it automatically produces through the algorithms through the predict what it expects is going to happen without me having to put any effort in, or bookkeeper or accountant having to put any effort in. You already have a cash flow forecast created for you. You already have reports created for you. You've already got KPIs and things like that, all automatically created for you. Yes, it's great if you can put some more time and effort in there to like really make it bespoke to your client, make sure that all the numbers that the computer's picked up in its algorithm are accurate, and to like build in anything that you know is actually going to happen in the future. And that's how you can really start to have a value. But within 30 seconds of linking it into, say, Xero, Sage, any of those accounting platforms, you have something to produce and give to the client that's providing them value.
I mean, I agree with all of that, obviously, and that is why we created it, and that is why we work with accountants. But I think it's that first hurdle, isn't it? Because you're right, you said it at the beginning, the common challenge is I've got no time, I haven't got time to go and learn new software. So I know that the value and the output and the result of it, but crossing that bridge to get to that point, how do you get them to come to terms with that and accept that there is just that relatively small period of just getting to grips with it?
I think quite often a lot of bookkeeping accountants don't actually realise how clever they are and how much knowledge they already have within them. A lot of the wisdom that we provide to our clients and the help that we provide to them is like the things that we think that they should already know, such as if you want to increase your profit, how about you try and increase your price by 10%? Very, very simple, very, very basic. But the client's too busy running around like a headless chicken they quite often forget about that and don't think, oh, actually, I need to look at increasing my prices. Are my expenses, covered by the price I'm currently pricing? They don't have time to sit back and look at the bigger picture. So that's where we can come in quite often. Really basic things. We don't need to have a master's or anything like that. We don't need to be, saying, telling them how they can fix the world. All we're saying to them is all these basic tips, but they do know, but they just need reminding of.
And I think there's an element they're all doing already. I think, back to just come back from Australia, get me. And I'm really jet lagged, by the way. So if I run out of any words, that'll be my entire blame for it. But the bookkeepers over there have accepted that they're really capable. And I think it's one of the things that we hear over here. There's a nervousness. Oh, I'm not an accountant. I don't advise. I'm not sure about this. And just not believing in what they know and the value that they can add to their end customer. And I look at the bookkeepers on that side of the world. They have run with the concept of, actually, I can help. I'm close to my clients. I understand their business. I know where they're going. And actually, I'm best placed to be able to deliver the level of advice that they need. And so, it's that confidence piece that is definitely missing, that actually they're probably doing it in some cases already as well. They're probably already delivering advice. Yeah. And I think that probably loops around to my initial question of, take on the pain of learning new software, which isn't painful in future. I'd like to vouch for that. We've learned our lesson and made sure that we created software that's very, very simple for people to pick up. But actually, you can start to generate revenue and lock in the value that you're delivering for clients through technology that you're probably already doing free of charge. Because what is in it for firms, apart from helping the end customer? Why would a bookkeeping firm want to do it?
Very profitable. The amount that you can charge for advisor service like cash flow forecasting, management reporting, even just setting up the cash flow forecast as well as the monthly keep of it is very profitable. I mean, for me, a small business owner who's turning over, say, 24,000 a year, which is very, very small, is more than happy to pay £200 a month for a cash flow forecast, which is probably going to take you, say, 15 minutes to just have a look over, make sure it's all accurate, make sure any new expenses are included in there, anything which changes is updated. That's £200 for 15 minutes of your work. At the moment, for the bookkeeping side of the work, you're not getting that sort of hourly rate. And then obviously from there, you can go on and go, actually, I've noticed creditors are paying you very quickly. We don't need to provide you credit control services. At the moment, you say you want to achieve this by the end of the year, maybe you want to go on a nice holiday to Australia, go join Helen on the sunny beaches. But you're not there at the moment. And how can you get from where you are now to where you want to be in a year's time? Would that be taking some holidays off, spend the time with the kids this summer? It might be that you want to have a nice Christmas. Whatever their personal goals is, they need the business to support them in that. And it's like looking at the stepping stones to get from where you are now to where you want to be.
Technical challenge, something pinged on my screen. I'm so sorry. There's always one. It has to do it to me every time. Sorry, carry on, Laura. You were doing there and I just interrupted you.
Like getting the stepping stones of where I want to be is effectively giving them a strategy meeting of how you're going to be doing that. Most strategy meetings, you'd be charging, £600 per meeting. And that could be for a 30-minute to an hour meeting. Again, so much more valuable when you're bookkeeping hourly service effectively.
It tends to also put a process around it so that you're not doing work for free, don't you? And you tend to then be able to know, right, actually, we're having a conversation about cash flow, and therefore this is a chargeable service because I'm adding value. And it starts to streamline the workflows because we all know that there's work being done for free, and actually putting limits around it and utilizing technology kind of locks in the service that you're delivering, and it becomes less ad hoc because you're referencing a forecast that you've built, or you're referencing some KPIs or tracking, or it becomes much easier to monitor.
I think as well by having me.
God, your sound is not very clear, Laura, and I did worry that I was struggling slightly. It might be. Have you got earpods in? Bin the earpods. Oh no, hold on. You have to reconnect, I think.
Is that any better?
That's loads better. Yes, you're loud.
It sounds really echoey from here when I don't have my headphones in.
It is quite echoey. You clearly live in a huge kitchen because you're echoing all around, but it's fine. Just don't shout and you'll be fine. Thanks for shouting that one for one of our audience. A couple of our audience said it. Sorry, what were you about to say then in response to the processes that we were just talking about?
By habits like keeping track of the forecasting or keeping track of what the KPIs that you're monitoring, whatever you're tracking, you've got a starting point, and so like you can review where you've got to each month or each quarter, and the client feels like they're actually getting something tangible for the money. With bookkeeping, yes, I know that the numbers are being looked after and everything's as it needs to be, but we don't actually see that physical piece of paper effectively. Whereas with a report, they can print it off or some graphs and these KPIs that we can print off and see where we start from to where we're going each month, they can see that we're progressing. They can see that actually you are really helping them make action where they want to be.
Yeah, totally. Let's talk into this. It's really about your journey into looking for us. I think what prompted you, because there's always something that prompts, I mean, there's always a want. I think most bookkeepers actually, because they're so close to their clients and really care about their clients, want to do more. But what prompted you into investigating software to support delivering this type of service, and what was the challenge you were trying to solve?
So for me, I think a lot of people provide management reports, or I used to work in industry doing management reporting for very big firms. What I really hated about it was always looking at what's happened in the past, not looking at what's going to happen in the future. You can't change what's been and gone. You can only change what's going to happen in the future. So for me, small business owners need to be looking at what's going to happen, what can they change now to make sure they get to where they want to be, and not looking at, obviously you can still learn a lot from what's happened in the past, but that's not where you need to be dwelling. You need to be looking at, right, things haven't gone to the plan so far, but what can I do going forwards to get myself back on track, get myself to where I want to be? So I was looking at something that would be able to do the forecasting, but actually pull that forecast into a management reporting. So obviously, I know a lot of people know, but I used to use Futurely quite a few years ago, but I stopped using it because at the time, there were two different softwares that didn't speak to each other, which is why I absolutely loved it when somebody reached out to Future and actually advised that now that it's all within the same software, I can start to pull these forecasts into my reports. And not only can I pull in the forecast, I can actually pull in the scenarios and things like that. So I can have a graph that will show what their actuals are, what their forecasts are, so where they're going to be in the next 6 months' time. But also, if their scenarios were to pan out, where the scenarios would be fitting into there as well. So we can look at, this is worst case scenario, and this is best case scenario, and it will show them all that in one simple, easy to read graph.
I think scenario often gets pitched as a really big project, doesn't it? And actually a scenario could be something that's just relatively simple. What happens if interest rates?
The scenario I do is a simple one, as in what would happen if I was to lose 10% of my sales? What would happen if I increased my prices by 10%? What would happen if I was to employ a member of staff in 6 months' time? It doesn't have to be something big. It's just actually, it doesn't have to happen, but what if it did happen?
Yeah, exactly. Just to caveat, so what Laura was talking about there is we did have 9 years ago when we came to market, we had our version 1. We're like Apple, we keep evolving, but we had our first version of advisory platform software, and it was a brilliant piece of kit, as Laura will vouch for. It really did. We were the leading advisory platform in the Xero ecosystem, but of course we started to recognize the needs of accountants and bookkeepers were changing, because of course 9-10 years ago advisory was still very new to everybody, and it was more about historical reports that were integrated to the bookkeeping. So we recognized we had to evolve the platform to fit with the evolving demands of our bookkeeping and accounting customers. So we then produced a new platform, which is what Laura is talking about now. So she has come full journey with us. She was on the version 1 and she's now on the very latest platform. But on the latest platform, bearing in mind you've actually been through that software learning process twice now, on the latest platform that you've just readopted to be able to underpin this offering that you're delivering out to your small businesses, how painful was the onboarding experience and the learning experience, and how much time did you have to put into it to get to where you are?
It was very, very simple, because not only is the software very user-friendly, I've joked about this in the past, actually you could probably just give your computer to somebody walking down the street and they'd be able to use it. It is quite intuitive. You click on the buttons that you want to click on them and it tells you what you need to do next. And also, even when it comes to things like KPIs, which obviously we knew them off by heart when we're doing exams, but as soon as your exams are finished, you completely forget about what KPIs mean and what the current ratio is. It actually explains it to you in layman's terms, so really simple, easy to understand terms, what that ratio means and why it's important and what numbers are good and what numbers are bad. But also, you have so much support with your customer success manager. Mine's been absolutely great, jumping on a call with me whenever I need to go through either new developments on there or what I can be doing differently or where things are and how to use it. So not only was I able to go in and actually learn everything I need to before those calls, so when I went on that call, I'd already learned everything which she was showing me anyway, because it was that easy to understand. I did have that support there if I needed it.
So I guess in those conversations to those firms that you work with, those bookkeeping firms that are thinking about doing this and trying to get on board with doing this, it's not as scary. It's not some big enablement program, onboarding program, certification, hours of your time gone. I mean, and if you were to pinpoint time, how long do you, because I want everyone to genuinely hear your story, really. How long do you think it took you before you could get that first forecast or KPI dashboard out of the door?
Because the system creates it for you, I have been on discovery calls with Bookkeeping support with clients that we're actually doing discovery calls with. Some people do need that additional support of, this is quite scary, will you come and hold my hand through it just in case any question I can't answer. I don't want to look like I don't know the answers when it's just my nerves have got better of me. So sometimes I'll go on to these discovery calls with them. And what we'll do is we'll plug them into, if we've got like an accounting package that works with Futurely, we'll plug it straight in there. It will produce the cash flow instantly. They have been able to get something physical straight away with no additional input needed, literally within 30 seconds. However, if you wanted to go through it, make sure you wanted to do it all properly, make sure it is as accurate as it can be. It's not Futurely system that's taking the time, it's going in through bookkeeping data to make sure bookkeeping data is accurate, consistent, up to date and things like that, but it takes the time. Actually understanding Futurely software itself is,
super quick.
Half an hour, 40 minutes for you to go onto each different tab, each different area, look at what's in there, because it's not as overwhelming as a lot of the other softwares are. It breaks it down to small manageable chunks, so you can have a look at this different section, and once you're happy with that, you can then move on to the next section rather than going, don't know where to start.
Yeah. And I am going to, for those on the call, I'm going to ask Laura to help us walk through the software in the way that she uses it at the later part of this session today. So you'll see exactly what she's talking about shortly, and it hopefully will make a lot of sense. But it was designed to be, we don't want to use plug and play because there's always the element of checking. We get it as accurate as we can, but you guys need to be able to believe in the numbers and be able to trust the numbers. We've designed it to be able to plug and play to a degree, but plug and play from a usability perspective, it hasn't got certification, etc. right? Because you haven't got time, as you rightly flagged before. Let's go in and talk about the different elements of it, because there's a lot in Futurely and I don't want to overwhelm, and we're not diving into all of the features today, but from a reporting perspective, it's got forecasting and reporting. So we're going to tackle those two core areas, I think. And so from a reporting perspective, how has it changed what you're delivering out to your clients, but also how has it changed some of your firms? Maybe you could bring it to life with a client or a firm that you've worked with so that those on this session today can hear.
Like I said earlier, it's really good because you can make it future focused. You can have a look at what's happened in the past in, the startup graph, but then look into the future. There's been quite a few people that have been looking at like funding application, things like that. It's quite easy for you to build out a management reporting pack, but not only, benefits the client because they can see where they are, where they're going to be going to, but they can then include as part of their management reporting when they apply for their funding as well. Obviously, quite recently, you've done the templates for you. So even now, yes, the drag and drop reporting is really user-friendly, easy to use. You have something there that straight away you can go, oh, let's have a look at this report and use this as a basis to go, actually, I like this, I like that bit. I'm not too keen on this, or my client doesn't need that, so I can delete that section. Add something that's a bit more usable for your client. Every client's different, every client wants to focus on something different. So the fact that it's drag and drop reporting, you can quite easily scale it because you can copy it from one client to another, but then you can go, actually, for this client, they don't need to focus on this area, but they will need to focus on a different area, and then you can include that in there. And it's so easy to change what you're wanting to focus on, and you can make it as spoken, make it really fit your client.
To your point before, if you're not confident or not sure what to create, or it's first time reporting for a client, then these templates are there to make it an easy transition. You can then add to them as the confidence grows or the conversations with clients grows. You can add your own KPIs in, but the templates are there to get everybody started, from a small business through to a bookkeeper or an accountant that's just beginning their advisory journey. They're there to give a starting template and to make it super easy to just, connect data, let's get the forecast in, let's bring the historicals in, let's just use a core financials template just to bring alive those core financials for that particular business. But I've probably touched on a point then that I do want to pick your brain on, because one of the biggest challenges we've got is that we've got small businesses that we know need help. We've got your bookkeepers that we know want to deliver help, but they haven't really had the conversations. So how do you start that conversation? How do you engage with your small businesses, or how do you get your bookkeeping firms that you're working with to engage? What's the best method?
I've mentioned it quite a few times, but my number one question is always, what is a business owner's personal goal? At the end of the day, we all go to work, we've all set up our business for a personal reason, whether that be because you want to be able to take time off for your children, or you want to earn enough money to achieve a personal goal. We've all got something driving us to do this. So I find out what that personal goal is, or might be several different things that we're wanting to achieve, and then say to them, at the moment, the business isn't helping them support that for whatever reason, or maybe it is, but by providing these services to them, you can help them create that easy to achieve stepping stone, path to get from where they are now to where they want to be. And at the end of the day, that's very valuable to everybody because it is what their personal drive is. They already have a drive to get there, but they don't know how to get there. So you're helping them, show them where they need to go by giving them these little stepping stones, and you can hold them accountable to each one. So it might be that they need to increase revenue, or for how can they make that profit increase? And you can have a look at this week, let's focus on your sales. So you need to look at, is there anything else I can sell to make more money? Can we increase the prices? Can we get more customers? Next week, it might be a focus on cost of sales. Can they look at other suppliers? Can we get cheaper rates anywhere? Can they maybe, make it last longer? The week after, you might look at the overhead expenses. What can we do there to make cost savings? Is there anything that will be more efficient? The week after, you might look at the staffing levels. If they were to employ more staff, it might be that they might need a marketer or might need somebody operational. How would that impact the cash flow, but also allow them to get to where they want to be? Is this making sure that you're not overwhelming yourself or the business owner by breaking it down to all these small manageable chunks?
And I guess ultimately setting it against the goal gives them the ROI as well, because it's a two-way ROI. You're going to have ROI for the advice that you're delivering and the value that you're delivering. But what's their ROI from investing in you as their bookkeeping support and their business advisors? So if that goal is the end, how do we get there? We'll work together to get there. It kind of frames it for them, doesn't it, really nicely?
And nobody's going to turn around to help to get to what their personal goal is, because at the end of the day, they really want to achieve it, because that's why they're getting out of bed every day. And we know that without your support, we're not going to get there as quickly as I could do with your support.
And I think a lot of business owners, as I'm sure a lot of people on the call today, if you work on your own, it's lonely. There'll be a lot of sole traders sitting on this call today that are sitting there on their own, beavering through their amount of work, and actually having an outside input is a relief for a lot of business owners, isn't it? They actually want the advice. They want someone to talk to. That's the value that they
bounce ideas with, don't we, really? At the end of the day, when we get together as a group of bookkeepers, we're always bouncing ideas off of each other. Won't be, what software are you using to do your cash flow forecasting? We're finding out what the best way of things are, but these business owners always sometimes need somebody who's actually outside their specific industry circle, just to see the bigger picture.
And actually, the accounting and bookkeeping networks are much tighter. I know there's all sorts of SME networks, but they tend to be so broad reaching because it's not focused in on the specialism, whereas bookkeeping and accounting is a nice niche that is really well supported within it. SMEs don't really have that. You kind of sit out there on your own. Trust me, I know. Anyway, what I wanted to go on to next was probably a lead on from that. And I know it says budgeting and scenarios. As I said, we'll go off piste on this because the question is nothing to do with budgeting and scenarios. It's actually to do with pricing, because there's a real value that you're delivering, and because building out cash flows and building out budgets and working with scenarios all has a cost associated with it. And you mentioned £200 before, but how do you work out, or how do you recommend that other bookkeepers decide on their pricing for this type of added value service? I know
I've written a blog post about
everyone has this question, but it's the most asked question. So how do you do it?
It really is a piece of string, because at the end of the day, the value providing to one client is going to be completely different value provided to another client. Therefore, the pricing structure for each client is going to be completely different. What you need to be thinking about is how long it's taking you to do it, but how long you've taken to actually get to this point where you're able to provide it. You've done lots of studying, you've done lots of exams, you've done lots of research, you've done lots of online learning, continual professional development to get to the point of being able to provide it. So it's not just that, yes, I can do it in 30 minutes. It's all those years of experience that you're also putting into that 30 minutes. And then it's a value that you're providing the client. You're helping them achieve their personal goals. Those personal goals are really valuable to that person. You're also helping them build a more profitable, successful, resilient business that's going to be able to survive and not fail like a lot of small businesses that aren't having support. So the pricing wise, I always say that nobody should be doing anything advisory wise for less than £150. That is my magic number. Whether it's a meeting, cash flow forecast, budget, anything should never be less than £150, because your time and the value you're providing is so much more than that. However, you can be charging multiple thousands of pounds for this service if the client is a big successful business that's getting value from it.
And do you recommend that it's that recurring piece sits on a sort of monthly basis? So say 150 to use yours, £150 a month is the monthly kind of get together review where we're at, or do you do that quarterly, or do you do it as one-off projects? How do you tend to work?
It all depends on what the client's needs are. So some clients will be going through a very big period of growth, or change or development where they need a lot more hand-holding. Sometimes they might even need weekly catch-ups, weekly forecasts. Some of them will be going through a very steady phase where they're not really just business as usual every day. Yes, they need to check in, make sure they're on track and make sure that they're still performing well, but they might just need to check in every quarter. Some business owners will have plenty of cash where they're happy to invest. Other business owners will be strapped for cash where they can't really afford it, but they need the help and support. Obviously, the more you can support them, the quicker they'll be able to get more cash. And so it's sort of like trying to say chicken and egg, which one comes first? Really, we need to be investing in you on a more frequent basis. However, they might only be able to afford quarterly, but we're in a really good position where we actually have visibility of our clients' bank balances, how much cash they've got sat there, and how full they are as a business. So we can go, actually, I know you can afford my services, or you know that actually they really can't, really struggling. And sometimes I might turn around to some business and say, you know, I'm going to provide this to you. My normal charge is this amount. I know you're struggling at the moment. So what I'm going to say is actually, you only have to pay me so much right now. However, in the next 6 months' time, when I'm going to help support you get to a point where you need to be, the remaining balance will come to you at that point, because I can see that you are struggling right now. And that way they're getting the help and support they need. So they're not going to fail, but also you're still getting rewarded for your time and effort you're investing in that business.
There's another accountant, is Will Farnell, that I'm sure some people have heard of on the call. I've definitely been to a Xerocon or anything, but he often said sometimes you've got to look and know when to invest in a client. And that might mean that it's not necessarily an invoice and it's invoice or invest, but he says sometimes it might be the step in, support, help, and you know that you'll have got that client invested with you forevermore, but you might have to work with them in this period in either reduced or split payments or whatever. And it's about, to your point, you kind of know where they are. They can't hide where they are because you can see how they're doing. And it's about really what value can you add at this point and what's the best way of positioning the value that you can offer. Sorry to ask you the pricing one, but I know everyone on the call, because I know that this will be a period of transition into advisory, and it's always the place where people get stuck. Do you use any, as a side note, do you use anything to support with the engagements, the pricing? Because obviously we have Go Proposal, obviously, in our network group. Do you use any of those sorts of tools to support with it?
I don't obviously provide bookkeeping and accounting services. I don't actually use tools like that, but I do support a lot of bookkeepers and accountants get the tool set up and working and running. Obviously, like I said, I've just done a blog post on pricing for advisory services, which I've released last week.
I didn't read that, Laura. You should have primed me for that. And I've just asked you. Right, fine. We'll share that link as to everyone in the group.
Also, I have created a pricing calculator for those that obviously can't afford to invest in Go Proposal. I know it can be quite expensive, but you do need the support and able to price things. I've got a pricing calculator which I'm giving away a pricing webinar, which I'm doing in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay.
So I'm not using sort of tools, etc., but I do have good understanding of what pricing should be on a monthly basis for these things. Like I said earlier, my £150 would be for a client that's earning less than £50,000 per year. If we're earning anything more than £50,000, you need to be, £300 plus for the service you're providing to them.
Yeah, of course. I should say, actually, your LinkedIn posts are incredible. So it's worth following Laura on LinkedIn, because actually she's always giving out content like this where they assume they can access all this information as well. Absolutely. Laura, do go and follow her, because it's great insight that you do provide. From a budgeting and scenario perspective, on balance, looking across your portfolio, then I guess we'll talk about those that you support, but looking at the clients that you work with, how many of them just have budgets and scenarios, just have reports, and how many have budgets and forecasts alongside reports?
I always encourage everyone to have forecasts and reports, simply because you can't look what's going to happen in future without your forecast. And the forecast is only as good as the forecast is. Actually, you need it to be more visual. You need to be able to have a quick glance and see exactly where you are in different areas, and you only get that in reports. So for me, they come hand in hand, 2 different prices because of 2 different services. But actually, it's a great way to upsell, because actually, what's the use of the forecast without a report? What's the use of a report without a forecast? You do need both.
And I think we'll go through, when we go into the product in a second, actually, I think we've probably really talked, and probably people want to see what we're talking about. But I think using the instant tracker and that visual into the future is where the value prop can be really easily hung from the value you can derive. And even if you go and look at performance pages where it does predicted net profit, suddenly there's your value prop. Look, you predict net profit is X. What happens if I get it to Y? And there's the value prop for pricing, for going ahead with this, for just really being able to work together. Right, I've got to now do a technical shift from this screen to another. So as you've all seen, technology sometimes doesn't go in my favour. So I'll see how this goes. Have I now switched to Futurely, Laura?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, it's just me working technology and yet can't use simple screen sharing. Okay, for everyone on the call, by the way, this is not me sitting here pointing at buttons for you. This is what I'm going to try and do, is explain the different areas and then kind of refer back to Laura to how she utilizes it, whether it's something she does utilize, something she's going to utilize, clients like it, etc. So again, if you've got any questions about any of these individual areas, please stick them in the Q&A, because this isn't going to be a big tech deep dive. It's going to be kind of an overview. Set the scene on Futurely, and Laura, you did reference it earlier, but when you connect any GL up to Futurely, so that's Xero, QuickBooks Online, or Sage Business Cloud, as soon as we've got that GL connected, we then go off and create a full forecast for that business for the next 3 years. The forecast that it creates off the bat, that immediate forecast, is around 85–86% accurate. And we do that because of two things. One, we include all due invoices and bills that are sitting in the GL, but we also do something really clever on the historical transactions sitting in the P&L. So we don't use AI, and we made quite a distinct decision not to use AI because it doesn't give the level of accuracy. SMEs have quite lumpy data. I'm sure you all know that. And also, AI isn't mature enough yet to think like an accountant. So we actually built our own algorithms that think and breathe and live like an accountant. And Laura, to your point, I loved what you said before, because our whole purpose was to create a team of accountants within our software that would then remove the need to have teams of accountants when we know hiring and challenges and time is always an issue. So our algorithms actually go and look at all the historical transactions that are sitting in every single account line and analyze them. And they look for things like, obviously, trends, behaviors, timings, cash impact. So is it a cash? Is it an invoice? Is it actually just a journal? And therefore we need to remove it from a cash forecast. It looks at outliers. It looks at all sorts of things. And then it looks at the customers behind it. Do those customers pay early, pay late? What's the risk factor on those customers? It's about 150 different algorithms every single transaction runs through. And then our system then uses all of that information to model the future transactions. And once it combines those future transactions with all due invoices and bills sitting in the GL, we then have that pretty accurate starting point from which you can have the conversation. So that's where, and I think if we treat this as, and you've just logged in, what do you do with Futurely? That will probably make the most amount of sense. So we've done that. We connected the GL. We are now presented with 3 areas of Futurely. And Laura, I'm going to come to you here, because the performance pages are really valuable, aren't they, for those first conversations? So can you just explain how you use these?
So like I always say, this performance page is what I use as conversation starters. So first thing I do is have a look at the graph down at the bottom, the rolling 12 months operation. The graph here is showing you where your sales are sitting compared to where your expenses are. So we can see April, May, June, your sales are more than your expenses, which is what you'd expect to see in a profitable business. However, come July, August time, your expenses are significantly more than your sales. You can see straight away there's a massive issue there. That is where I'd be jumping onto a call with a client and say, what's happening in July? What can we do to make sure that your sales can be exceeding the expense you've got coming? It might be a case of last 12 months had really good sales and therefore it's not a problem. We're expecting this to have money coming in earlier, but actually at first glance, you can see straight away this is a problem. I also make sure the green dotted line is your cash balance. Make sure that's at a level where you'd expect to see it. It's not a case of that, if it's zero, under zero, in which case I'm not going to have any cash in the bank to pay the bills. Once I'm happy that, I've got more sales than we do having expenses, I'm going to be profitable, have a look at predicted VAT liability. A lot of clients don't know what their VAT liability is. Some of them don't even understand how it's calculated. But what we need to know is, have I got this for £8,000 sat in savings somewhere ready to pay HMRC? It's due on 6th of August, which is only a few weeks away. If I don't have money saved there, what can we do to support them to make sure they get that money there? So it might be a case that we need to help them get more revenue coming in. So that might be a case that we then look at overdue invoices. We've got £51,000 coming in, due to come in, but it's not come in yet. That £51,000 would cover that VAT liability. So what we need to do is make sure the cash flows, so it's coming into a business before it needs to be paid out. And that is where I said earlier that actually you've got a problem with your overdue invoices a lot higher, especially when you look at the debtor days just underneath where it says invoices due to the left of there. The debtor days are currently 62, which is quite high for most businesses. Can we do something to help them bring those down? So it might be automating chases for payments, making sure you're getting on phone calls to chase that money coming in. And then looking at their bill due, are there anything that we can extend payment terms or anything like that to make sure the cash is going out a bit slower when it comes in, so that we can make sure cash flows as it needs to.
Amazing. So this is so you look at this before you pick up the phone to the client to get them in, or you kind of use this to position the value that you can offer?
It all depends on where I'm at with that client. So sometimes it might be that I'm looking at this with the client live.
Okay.
This is like my thought process and what I'd be flagging to them and saying to them, you know, this is a problem area at the moment. It might be that I'm going to go away and look into this, see if there's anything I can see. My side, to know you're really busy, but I'll come back to you in an hour or two. Or it might be that actually I'll look at this before I make that phone call to the client or reach out to the client to have a conversation with them.
Okay.
Or I might just drop them an email saying, I've noticed this is a problem. I'd really help to support you, you know, rectify this. Can we book in a meeting? Please note there'll be an additional charge for this meeting because obviously I'll be helping support you in addition to what my normal monthly services are. Therefore, the price of this will be X. And you're already, you know, they can't really say no to it because they know they've got a problem. And they know you're the solution to that problem, you can help them.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think in here we've got a number of performance pages that I know we won't have time to go through today, but is there one that is your favorite? Because it was favorite. My God, you see, that's the jet lag. Is there one that is your default one? But we've got cash flow, P&L, balance sheet performance, then even a deep dive.
Customer and supplier spot before one that's very different to everything else, because on here you can quite easily see the number of invoices due from your customers or to suppliers, and the amount overdue, which is really important, but also the dependency. Quite often clients are about realising being really dependent on one customer or one supplier. What would happen if they were to lose that customer or that supplier to go bust? Have we got something in place to go, actually, if I was to lose this 40% of my revenue, it's okay. Yeah, what would happen if they were to lose them today and we're not going to pay next month? Or if they had whatever issues and weren't going to pay the bills at all? But also on the supplier side, what would happen if that supplier went bust? Could they quite easily find someone else?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be, you know, have to pay twice the price to get what they need to be able to produce those sales? And it's looking at dependency and making sure they've got a plan in place just in case.
Good. So this is just extra. This is the point. You're looking for those areas of risk and opportunity, and then actually sitting in future, there's a load of extra information to back that up, isn't there? If you haven't got your GL, it's sitting in here. So then you've got that full conversation and the full scenario positioning that you can then go back to your clients.
I know, but you can probably find this in your accounting software business, and I say it's so easily visual on here. You can filter it, you can order it quite quickly and easily, and it's just there, and you can share your screen with the customer, or also the customer can have access to this and have a look at it for themselves.
You can actually go even further, one step down, can't you, and look into the individual customers and look at trends, and you can look at risks. So because we're looking at those payment behaviours, we can see if they're beginning to pay slightly slower, and again increasing the risk. Is there something going on in that customer or supplier that we need to go and investigate? So there is a load of, and I knew you were going to say that page, by the way, because that is everybody's favourite page. So the performance pages, just to wrap this up, this is a great conversation starter, but then also, do you use it then in the ongoing conversations, or do you tend to move to reporting once you've started that conversation starter?
I always look at this on a weekly basis for most clients, just to make sure that things are still ticking along as you'd expect them to. Make sure that things like, you know, the gross profit and net profit is looking as you'd want it to be, and keeping an eye on the overdue invoices just to make sure it's not getting too high, or, you know, things are, yeah.
Brilliant.
And it's just you can take action before it becomes a problem. You can be more proactive.
Totally. Now into the forecasting area, and there's a lot of information on the screen, so I'm just going to break it down before I then ask Laura her method through this. So daily tracker forecast, that was what I talked about at the beginning, that initial forecast that's created as soon as you connect the GL up to Futurely. We go off and create this forecast, and you can see there's all the invoices I was talking about, those due invoices and bills. You can see they're all listed here. You can move the payment days, you can exclude them, include them. You've got full capability really to manage that short-term piece of the puzzle as you wish. And then of course you've got the forecast that we've created across the P&L. Now, what's interesting in here, and hopefully you'll back me up with this in a second, Laura, is that rather than just go off and predict numbers against each of these accounts, you can see the predicted line and the numbers we've predicted. If you click any of them, we explain why we've predicted it. So I think, again, for first time sort of use of the software, but also first time maybe engaging in forecasting with a particular client, this gives the background, the confidence in the numbers, the justification for the automatically generated predictions, from which you can then decide as the bookkeeper whether we go ahead with it or not. I've frozen in a very weird way. So then you can decide whether or not you go ahead with that forecast or you start adding your own. Is that what, do you still use this, Laura? Was it something you used at the beginning and now you're confident in the numbers?
Absolutely. I do still look at what it's used, because obviously for every client can be different and what it's using to predict those numbers. I'll always look and see what it's done. when I'll think, actually, is that what's going to be happening in the future, or is the business changing? Are they growing? Does it need to be tweaked slightly? And it might be better leave the predicted line in there and just add in some additional lines for, we might have a new project on the go, or it might be better totally override it.
And that's the point of this. It's that first base forecast, if you like, that instant forecast that we create when they first connect the GL up. You've then got all these predicted lines, but it's then completely customizable by you. And you said before, some of them you can just utilize the predicted one, but some of them really need to go through and actually go, actually, the business is changing, something's being added, the system doesn't know about this because it's new. And you can toggle off any of the predictions, and then you can use the prediction engine to add your own forecasts in. Now, in the forecasting engine, we've got loads of different methods in here. So you can freestyle forecast, so just typing in amount per week or per month. You've got repeating, so of course a repeating entry for something like rent or just recurring revenue. Unit-based forecasting, we're going to sell 100 units at 10p each. And then the formula builder. And I guess the formula builder often feels the most overwhelming, but it is incredibly powerful, and it just enables anybody using it to, like they would in Excel, reference any data set that's sitting in Futurely, be it historical or forecast data sets. You can build if statements, you can get really meaty with these. How do you use formula builder, or which is your preferred method of forecasting?
It depends on what the thing is that I'm forecasting. So quite often it'll be unit repeating, because like you say, it is, okay, so it is rent and it's going to be repeating each month. Performer wise, I probably look at if I wanted to increase what's happened in the past, I say 5%. And also if I'm wanting to pull different KPIs together to create, so if I've created a customizable KPI, I'm then going to say, actually, it's this times by whatever it is to create the forecast. Yeah.
Exactly. And the whole point in here, I think, is there's enough simple methods to be able to build out the majority of forecast. Formula builder is there just when you want to start looking at, if cost of sales goes up, then impact income or expenses or whatever it might be. And then you've got those linked different areas of the accounts that will then.
I think it's quite useful as well, because a lot of people at the moment do tend to be using Excel to do forecasts on, which obviously is really difficult because it's not live linked to the accounting software. If you're going to make a change, you can't very quickly sync it data and it pulls it through. So I think that formula bar is really easy, because you can go, actually, I've built this in Excel, I've got a formula in Excel.
Exactly.
Very easily put it back into here.
Exactly. And it's really useful for formulas based on that growth of last month, because we've got the live last month, because it's feeding into the GL. So again, that last month's data or last week's data will be up to date. You can then drive, that times 5% is your next forecast, for example. And it's just.
And then when the actual stats are feed through, it's always updating it, so it's not being static like your repeating one would be.
Exactly. So in the forecasting area, so that was kind of just to kind of bring that round. So you saw, we started with that instant forecast that we created. You, Laura, would work through with the small business to get the P&L like it should be. And it's either using the predictions that we've generated or adding your own in. And then once you've done that, it's about saving that first forecast. And a lot of my clients, and I'm going to ask if you do this, save that first forecast as their budget. That's their locked in plan for the year. And then they use that to track how they're performing against it. Is that what you do, or do you keep the daily tracker running and then have another forecast and a scenario? What's the best way that you use this area?
I tend to keep the daily tracker running, and there's the up-to-date version of what their cash flow forecast is expected to be. But I will lock it in at the end of each month or beginning of each month, so you then have comparative when you do reporting side of things. With a budget, I tend to save a budget for a true budget creation if a client's paid me to create a budget, which quite often obviously will be what the forecast is, because a budget and forecast should be on day one the same as each other. However, I charge them out at different things, because your budget is a budget creation of what they expect per year. Your forecast is a more dynamic, keeping it up to date on a monthly or regular basis.
Yes, of course. And I'm just conscious of time. I've just been pinged on time. You see, I knew we'd run away. Just from within here, though, there's a number of different ways of using it. As Laura said, she saves a budget and then she builds out the additional scenarios. But everything is very, very simple. So daily tracker is that instant one. It keeps running in the background and will keep updating where you're tracking as a business based on what's actually happening day to day in the business. You've then obviously got any forecasts that you've saved that you can then reference for any reporting mechanisms, and you can duplicate any saved forecast to then start creating scenarios and then starting to layer that over the top. That's probably the quickest wrap up of forecasting. But I'm really conscious that we want to go into reporting, because you talked about it before. this area is designed for super simple getting started, isn't it? And again, I know there's a lot on screen for people in the last few minutes, because I do want to leave time for Q&As. I can see some questions in there. But Laura, you talk about what you do on this screen and really the power of it.
So now that the templates are available, which have been available for the past few weeks, if it's a new client that I've onboarded, I would have a look at the annual health check, which is a several-page report that just summarises what their annual health report's looking like. This is both for my information, because I get to really understand the customer a bit better, how they're financially performing. It's also something tangible, which is quickly created for me, but I can give to the client. I can charge from the client for it, and they're getting some value from it as well. So I'd be going through here, it's like putting some narrative in there to explain the numbers. But here you can see quite easily, you've got a green arrow going up if it's a good increase, or a red arrow going down if it's a bad increase, bad decrease or increase. So it's quite visual for the client to go, these are the areas I'm doing well in, these are the areas I'm not doing quite so good on. It's got all the different graphs and things on there to explain what's happening in the business. I would also have a look at the financial summary report as well, which is another template on there, which is quite easy set up. From there, I then have a look at, is this useful information for my client, or is it too much? Delete anything that you think is not going to be useful for the client, add in anything that you think will be useful, because they've got like a drag and drop feature on the right hand side there where you can go.
I'm going to do that.
Like a pie chart of this or that.
Just drag it over like that, and you can put it anywhere you like, and then you can just add any of the data sets that you want in, actual data, forecast data, any scenario you've built, and then you can look at the financial data that you want to be referenced for that period. Sorry to interrupt.
So.
I have to do it.
So I'd be creating these like drag and drop reports of looking at, revenue growth for what's happened in the past 6 months, what's expect to happen in the next 6 months, so you can make sure it's still going on that upwards trajectory, make sure it's going in the right direction.
And I think all of those templates can be, I think we referenced it earlier, but they can be added too. So to your point, you can delete anything you don't want, you can bring in your own KPIs. So it can be a working report, can't it, that really stays relevant to whatever it is the client is focusing on. I'm conscious, thank you for my marketing team for pinging us up. You've probably seen a personalized demo just come up on the screen. It genuinely is a personalized demo. Laura and I have been through some kind of high level stuff, but my team are designed to really talk to you about your bookkeeping firm, about your clients, and they can absolutely personalize what you see in that walkthrough to the problems that you're trying to solve in. So do hit yes. It's not some boring demo, I promise. And they will give you a value straight back from it for what it is you're looking to solve. There's some really cool things as well in future now, isn't there? Like sharing of reports. So you've got the ability now to automate. So when you share a report, you can either print it off, as you did say, or you can email it out to a client. And you can actually set it up to be a scheduled report as well, can't you? So again, thinking about time, and we might have clients who want weekly cash flow reports, for example, is Futurely will now send it out weekly automatically. It can go to you for a signature before it sends, or it can just send automatically each week. To try and limit the amount of time that's spent in the admin around providing these services. Do you use this widely, or do you tend to stick to PDFs?
I am looking excited to use scheduled reports. For me, it's very much, I like to review it and make sure everything's accurate, make sure the narrative's being done. And scheduled reports are brilliant if you've got no narrative in there, because obviously you don't need to go in and add the narrative, yes. But you do have it set up so that you can send it to yourself for review first, which is what I'm doing, so I can make sure that I go in, add in any narrative. It's just that reminder of, oh yeah, the months run away with us, it's suddenly the 10th of the month and I need to get a report out. It's that reminder to me of I need to go in and do that. We have got a couple of clients that have the monthly report that they deliver themselves, and that they don't automate that piece, but they do automate kind of weekly snapshots that just are kind of the trading reports, if you like, of that business. And that's landing really well with small businesses that like that oversight, and it is driving more and more conversations back to the advisor. So I think that's where it's really powerful, is actually, aside from month end, what can we do to deliver ongoing value and constantly be front and center in our clients' minds? Right, I'm so conscious of time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then answer some of the questions that we've got. So Lisa, I'm really sorry, I missed your question. That graph makes no sense. How can you have increasing cash flow when the expenses have increased? So Lisa, I spotted that too. It's because it's a demo account, and somebody has put the wrong forecast against the wrong account category. So it's a demo account. Trust me, the graphs do make sense in real day, and you will vouch for that, won't you, Laura? So, yeah.
I spotted that as you were looking at it, and I thought, do I comment and say this is a demo account and the data is squiffy? But well spotted, Lisa. You are clearly well positioned to be able to advise your clients, because you spotted that straight off.
I've had a few times I've had to report something that's not quite looking right, and the tech team are so good at coming back to you and getting it corrected. You know, sometimes it's before I've even had a chance to like go make a cup of tea. Literally, I put an email off or put a phone call and come back and ask it sorted.
And I think there's always ongoing anomalies. You know, we have, there's some interesting ones that come in the markets that we work outside of the UK, the way that people are paid on payroll and the way that the movements happen around payroll. And so feedback is always warranted from any of our clients. We're well and truly out of beta. We did 2 years of being in beta to get that feedback. But yes, if ever you see anything, just let us know. But we do, it's all about accuracy. It's all about giving you guys accurate level of information. So it's the thing that we really pride ourselves on. Right, we've got 4 minutes left and we are all out of questions, I think. Yep, so if anybody wants to chuck a question in, please do. Otherwise, I'll just leave the last thoughts with you, really. And I guess, have you got any kind of high level, how it's changed working with technology, kind of as your final finisher, how it's really transformed the way that you want to run your bookkeeping practice?
It's really important to have that conversation with clients. Quite often your clients will be doing things that are going to be really detrimental to their business without consulting you. So it might be that they've gone and got a new car, for example, without letting you know that they're planning on doing that. But having these conversations and providing them the value on a weekly, monthly basis, having more touch points with them allows them to think, actually, let's reach out to my bookkeeper and let them know what's going on in the business. And having these conversations also opens the doorway for you to say what your plans are with business at the moment, what your plans for the next 2-3 months, what your plans for the next 2 or 3 days even. And you can provide them that value of going, actually, let's hold tight with that right now, because at the moment your cash flow is not going to allow that to happen, or it's going to have a massive impact on your profit and loss, and therefore you're not going to be able to declare dividends you were expecting to at the end of the financial year. A lot of clients think, actually, I need to do this because everyone else is doing it, but they don't think about the overall impact it's going to have on their business. And really what they want to be is achieving the profit and loss and the
goal that they
take money out of the business they want to have their personal goals.
Exactly. And as final thought, I did hear a really interesting stat on a course yesterday that in the accounting and bookkeeping industry, 81% of new business customers are through referrals. And I think it's just a really important note to delivering the very best service that we can to the clients will ensure that we do maintain that 81%, because that is impressive. I don't think there's many other industries that can quote that level of referral business. So on that note, I think we will leave it there. Laura, that was superb. Thank you so much for taking the time and giving us the insight and putting up with my tech and just really taking this hour out of your day to share your stories of how you've developed your business and obviously those others that you do work with. So go enjoy a cup of tea and take time. And thank you for everybody else who did join this session this afternoon. I'm going to go and get a coffee. Take care, everyone. Bye.